how it was started.
Can an ordinary civilian gain access to these documents, or was this because you had some sort of classified access?
No, anybody that it depends on whether or not you're as nasty as a junkyard dog and tenacious as a bulldog and refuse to take no for an answer, and you bother somebody until they decide to allow you to do something simply because they don't want to fool with you anymore.
I gotcha.
That basically does research, and it covers all of it. Those people who won't listen eventually do when you get a hold of them every day.
Right.
When you send them 50 emails a day, one every minute or something, it bugs them enough. It's like Mom. When you used to only get something from Mom, if you bug her enough, she'll say, "Go ahead and do it, leave me alone." And that works. Okay. So, the song, I believe, was You Get Your Way by Insisting. Okay. I insisted, so I got the information. I studied this over about 2.5 years, and believe me, it is intricate. It is extraordinary in terms of what it told me was a simplistic, basic way to step outside of the normal controls of what people consider as laws. You have limitations, supposedly, between a citizen of one country and a citizen of another. Those two legally are supposedly separated. That's not quite true. Little things of that nature were what I was after to learn. So, I'd studied this stuff for about 2.5 years, and I finally took a break from it because my head was beginning to hurt. And I decided to, listen to a little radio and play a little card, listen to a little internet radio, and play a little cards on the machine. And lo and behold, here comes this friggin' idiot. He's one of these freedom philosophers. And this is somebody that thinks they know what they're doing when they are missing several critical points that will get your butt put in jail. But they want you to try it. Oh, I've done this. Yeah, right.
This is the guy that would teach you how to beat a traffic ticket, but you could go to jail for 6 months?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Real simple.
Okay.
And if you go about it correctly, it works fine. Okay? But if you don't, you end up actually opposing the judge.
Right.
And that's a big no-no. What you do is you allow the law to oppose the judge. Then the judge has to rule in a succinct manner, plus you're not standing in a landmine field. That is not a nice place to stand, believe me. I've been in one. So, this dink gets on there and decides to mouth off a bunch of stuff, and all he did was almost instantly make me mad. So, I snatched the phone, and I called in, and I said, "Hey." And he said, "Hi." And I said, you might be, according to what you just put out, because most of that belongs in the toilet because you're going to get people in trouble. What do you mean? I said, your information is not total. It's not complete, and you're going to get people in trouble by espousing this, by saying that, if you do this, you can get away, you can tell the judge what to do. Well, no, that ain't part of this, and you know it. If you don't, I'm giving you a lot more credit than you deserve. So why don't you shut up and listen? Well, about this time, the host of the show comes on and says, "Hey, come on now, you're going to have to watch it." And I said, "Hey, look, did you realize that you can be held liable if somebody gets in trouble for what this guy is saying on your show?" "Really?" I said, "Yeah. Now, you want me to clear this mess up?" "Yes." So, then the guy comes back with this sovereignty routine, and I got upset for the second time and told him to shut up and listen, and maybe he would learn something, that he might want to learn how to read at the same time. What I basically did was I laid out the primary basis for what is required in order to declare any area. And if you've got an area somewhere in the middle of Timbuktu land, but it's yours, and it's registered in terms of the boundaries, basically, or you have at least real definitive markings so you can tell where it is and what it is and how big it is, you can declare that area sovereign. And by doing so, you actually create your own nation state.
Well, if I declared my toilet a sovereign zone, then I could drop waste into it and be pretty much like the government.
Well, except that so long as it stays on within your area, yes. Now, by that I mean you should declare the whole yard and use a finger system if you're going to do something of that nature, simply so that you're protected legally.
Right on.
That's what I'm saying. There's little bits of information, and it can get squirrely, and it's a lot of fun to deal with. But, so I laid this process out. Basically what we did, and the way the process worked, happened, as I said, by accident. While I'm telling this guy how this works, somebody in this great state of Pennsylvania took notes.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have any idea anybody would even be listening other than to shut this turkey up that didn't know what he was talking about.
Right, so obviously a state itself could be a sovereign zone or declared as such, and those who govern the state could get wind of what you've figured out from your extensive research and implement that research.
Yes.
Wow. That's awesome.
So basically that's what happened in Pennsylvania. The person that took the notes was fairly knowledgeable in the real sovereign legalities and lawfulness, and took that knowledge in combination with what I had put together, got with some other people, and they said, well, yeah, let's see what happens. And so they put together a process of notification, and they sent it off to the International Court of The Hague.
Oh, my God.
And this is the civilian division, as I understand it, or civil division. And they, of course, sent a reply back when they received it that they had received that package. The rest of it was a receipt of the intent of the package. They had made a copy of what they had sent, certified copy of the original, that sort of thing. Now, their package, then, they're sitting on a package there. The Hague's got one in their records.
Right. So now you have a complete paper trail.
Exactly. Now, the crux of this...
This might be sort of like a subpoena where the simple fact that the Hague accepted the paperwork, by definition, locks them into some sort of binding arrangement.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This is exactly and only a notification process. I want to make that perfectly clear.
Okay.
What happens through receipt of the paperwork is that it goes into the Hague record. And in that manner, the notification then is a publication, like you'd use in a newspaper to advertise, I'm not responsible for my debts any further. Well, This thing says, we are now a sovereign nation state.
Wow,
and
gotcha.
It's very similar to that, only this is an international newspaper, in effect. We have basically, by sending one little pack like that, created a sovereign, independent nation state.
Wow.
Okay, so as soon as they got receipt that this thing had been delivered, they got a call from a higher up in the Pentagon. And that person says, I understand you guys have been doing some notification internationally? Yes. I understand that you seem to find this process as being rather simple? Yes. The next thing was, do you think you can replicate or reproduce that sucker? And the person went, I don't know. And what you got right then was, I have no idea, quite simply. We can see what's available. We can try and find out. The person at the Pentagon, I'm not going to say that it's a guy because I'm not going to put gender on it, simply that, it could be a female. The people at the Pentagon said, go for it, let's see what happens. They said, okay, we'll give it a shot. Now, these people are involved in freedom just like I was. They wanted to be able to do something that was real, proactive, didn't get anybody in trouble, and yet was something that could be also used in other ways. Okay, they didn't know at the time what that little simplistic package for that one state did, and didn't find out until after they started researching it.
What's the time window we're talking about right now?
In terms of
when this all happened?
This happened, started in about October of last year.
Okay.
Which is not an exact date. As of November, we decided that we were going to move on this. I got involved because I knew one of the people that had been involved with these people before anyway, and was requested, hey, would you like to be involved in this? And I said, sounds good to me. It's better than anything else I've seen. And then when they hit me with the idea of what it contained, I said, no, wait a minute. I was on a radio show and I explained to them what happened, and they said, really? Okay, so here you go. You got somebody getting upset because some idiot gets on a radio show. He tells them what they can do with themselves and how to do it. For real, instead of playing games with things. Somebody takes notes, they do it, and all of a sudden, officials from the government in the military are interested. Can you do it again? And along with that, there's a combination of other people involved with their own shows of at different times during the week. And these people, I met those people and got involved sort of indirectly with them. The whole thing...
right, I was going to say, it would seem that each state is going to have squirrely barriers to go through, different from Pennsylvania, in order to get this all off the ground.
Well, it depends on whether or not you're part of the original 13 colonies, and or whether or not your constitution is de jure, which is lawful by common law, or de facto, which is the corporate government. There's a difference.
Okay, gotcha.
I hate those keywords simply because when people hear it, they turn the friggin' TV off. They don't want to hear that. Well, I'm sorry, but you do need to pay attention to the difference.
Right.
At any rate, so we start boogieing with this. Okay, we'll take the project and we'll run with it. We were able to receive notice on about the end of February of this year that the whole package of a majority of the states had been received by The Hague. In other words, each little nation-state package went into a big box, and the big box was delivered to The Hague, and we got notification of the entire package. Now,
let me ask you this.
Yes.
If the military, in its oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against domestic enemies, gets word of a civilian-based initiative which demonstrates that the states wish to have their sovereignty returned to them, doesn't that legally give them the right to move forward on this and enforce the will of the majority of the states?
Well, that's part of the process I'm coming to.
Okay, great.
This is not just a simplistic process of sending a newspaper clipping overseas.
Oh, I get that.
Receipt that it got to where it was going. So the basic premise of a nation state is this: what most people used was either their own constitution or they wrote one. It had to agree with the 1787 United States Constitution, to include the 13th, and I mean the original 13th Amendment, where certain people are not allowed to hold foreign offices here in the States. The Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, and that real cool document called the Declaration of Independence. By declaring our sovereignty and our disengagement, or our effort to remove ourselves being individual states, from the corporate United States government, what this did was this rebirthed the Declaration of Independence, which states on page 2 that when the government gets out of whack, you got the right to take care of the problem.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the other part of this. The manner and format of using those documents, the original founding documents, in conjunction with a meeting by representative residents of a state, gives those people the right to make the declaration. This then gives legal authority by the civilian authority to the military to take actions as necessary to back up the civilian action.
That's what I thought. Okay, perfect.
It's kind of convoluted, and I know it's not real simple, but simply, we sent off notification. The military gave us a gold star. They just loved it. Okay.
Now, I'm assuming that just so people get clear on this, you're not talking about just a group of ordinary folks who are like surfing the net and listening to truth radio. These are actually people who have some degree of influence in these states that you were networking with.
No. As a matter of fact, some of them are not very well educated. And I'm going to make this perfectly clear. You don't need influence in order to take certain actions.
I see. So the simple fact that we are all American citizens, everyone whom you're speaking about, myself included, any citizen has the right to do this.
Yes, basically.
Okay, perfect.
Now, the premise is this. In terms of declaring your state as free of the United States government, and I'm talking about the corporate government and all of its affiliates, what happens is that each state becomes, according to the notification process, its own sovereign nation. So this is where the nation-states handle comes from.
I see.
It's just a plurality of what individual states did. You have to have a certain number of people who reside in each state in order to accomplish the process. It's not difficult. We do have backup and assistance for that if somebody has problems. So in our effort, we got not only a majority of the states, enough of the majority of the states to have a cushion in case there was some problem with some of the paperwork, along with a fair group of Indian nations who also submitted paperwork in such a fashion that the basis is this. The United States has been set free from the corporate government, literally, on a lawful basis, as recognized internationally.
Well, I can hear the howling laughter of skeptics who are already stroking their egos and saying, oh, sure, he can say whatever he wants, but if it ever even made it up to the Supreme Court, they would just knock it down just like they appointed Bush in the whole election debacle between Bush and Gore.
Not exactly.
Okay.
As I stated, I went back to the origins of law. And the origins of law come from the origins of law as written on cuneiform tablets by the ancient Sumerians. The tablet that I was privileged to get a copy of comes from somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000 BC.
Wow.
Okay, from that tablet, you got ecclesiastic law. From ecclesiastic law, you got canon law. From the combination of ecclesiastic and canon law, you have all of your statutes and regulations that are considered law under common law.
And
now,
this underlies...
common law was developed basically in England so that the poor serf, and this is the hired hand that works the land and tries to feed his family and make money for the boss,
right,
would have some form of protection in case the some dude they were working for decided to go crazy and kick him off the land. He could object. That's where common law comes in. The basis and premise of common law is simple. It contains two basic things. One is no injured party and no property damage, and it's property of any kind, no crime. Just that simple. This is the basis for much of the legal documentation that we used. It's also some of the basis for which we used the process. Now, the neat thing about this is that the manner of the process steps outside of both ecclesiastic-based law and canon law. Any form of statute, be that local, state, national, or international. And it protects itself because it does not state anything that other than the simple notification process. So it stays within the system, but also is set in such a fashion that it's outside of any challenge. This was the idea that I was trying to find out about.
Well, these occult governments obviously don't want people knowing about this, and that appears to be why you had so much trouble getting those documents.
That's pretty much part of it. Now, the rest of it is that they found out about the process we were using and interfered with that as much as possible. Certain notary seals were challenged. Certain Secretary of State offices refused apostilling documentation, and a whole bunch of things. However, in spite of all the fun and games, we did get it done. It has been delivered. The copy, and I'm talking about the real copy. This is not something you run off a copy machine, but something that is traditionally accepted as a de jure copy of the legal documents, was submitted to the correct people in the military, who were just delighted to find this. Oh. Now, I'm going to go back to something else. Back in the day, I was involved with nuclear defense of the country. I had some rather high security clearances, etc. Due to that fact, I was allowed at a later date, now this is after the security clearances and whatnot, but I had proved that I was trustworthy because there was nothing that I let out that was classified. There was nothing that was of a sensitive nature that I would divulge, even though I knew them. And I talked to a couple of people about this. Eventually, I was given this certain person wanted to know about me, and so I got interviewed a couple of times by some colonels and whatnot. And finally, the guy said, one of them showed up in a staff car and said, somebody wants to see you. Can you come with me? And I said, no, I ain't going to be, put in the trunk, am I? And he laughed. And we took a ride over to this certain level officer's house.
What time window are we in right now?
79.
Okay, so 79 is when this event that you're speaking of happened.
Basically, okay, in that area. I'm not going to give exact dates because I don't want to out people.
I just wanted the window.